Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid. Redress the past, or reach out to the gettable white voter who says, you know what, I'd like a shot at getting in the pot business. But to do that, our entire audience.
You ever notice how the Democrats just keep discovering fresh and inventive ways to harm themselves, like they are world-class experts at pushing away their own supporters? And Bill Maher, who, let's be honest, has built a career out of being a smug liberal, just ripped into them on his show. And truthfully, he is not wrong. So let's talk about this whole Latinx mess. Remember, when the woke crowd tried to rename every Latino in America as Latinx, they forced it into speeches, campaigns, schools, basically everywhere. And the actual Latino community answered with a giant eye-roll survey after survey showed most disliked it, never used it, never wanted it. Even the nation's oldest Latino civil rights organization said, nope, not for us. And still AOC and her woke group keep protecting it like it's the hill they are willing to fall on. And here is the twist. AOC's reason gender is flexible, language is flexible. Okay, sure. But you know what else is flexible? Latino voters. They are flexible enough to move from blue to red if they feel Democrats do not truly stand with them. And guess what? That is exactly what is going on. Bill Maher pointed out a perfect case. There was this Latino-heavy congressional area on the Mexican border that had been solid blue forever, like no one imagined it would flip, and then suddenly it went Republican. Why? Because the Democrats competing there stopped acting like they were the advocate for their community and started acting like they were the advocate for migrants' woke agendas. And whatever Twitter trend was popular that week.
Last week, an 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team. And the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, we gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why. Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stopped seeing your candidate as their lawyer.
That is the point. Maher nailed. Voters want leaders who act like they're lawyers. They do not want a representative chasing hashtags. They do not want someone more focused on correcting pronouns than repairing schools or keeping neighborhoods safe. And the Democrats just cannot seem to understand that, like, really, how disconnected do you have to be to keep pushing a term like Latinx when the very group it is meant to elevate largely rejects it? It is like, if I went around saying, hey, from now on we are not calling it pizza, we are calling it flatbread circular gluten units. And when everyone boos me, I double down and say, well, language is flexible. That is not inclusivity, that is pride disguised as progress, and voters recognize it.
Their message to you was, I'm an American now. I'm here. Be my lawyer, not the lawyer for the migrants showing up in my backyard. Every month I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales.
That is why Trump, yes, Trump the man, the Democrats insisted could never connect with minority voters, ended up gaining ground in Latino communities, not because he suddenly turned into their defender, but because Democrats walked away from that role. When you fail to act like the lawyer for the people, they will dismiss you and choose someone else. It is that simple.
Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid. Language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid.
And this is not only about Latinos. Asian Americans are leaving the Democrats too. And why? Because of the whole equity and education nonsense. In deep blue cities, Democrats decided the way to reach equity was to cancel advanced programs, the very ones Asian kids were succeeding in. Think about that. Instead of raising up students who were falling behind, they pulled everyone down to the lowest level. That is not fairness, that is sabotage. If you are a parent watching your child work hard and excel in math or science, and then some politician steps in and says, sorry, we are cutting that program because not every student is thriving the same way. How are you supposed to respond? You are going to search for someone who will defend your child, someone who will act like your lawyer.
And more of them now than ever are identifying as Republican. So are Asian Americans, whose support for Democrats is down 16 points since the last election. A lot of that is because, in the name of achieving equity in schools, Democrats in deep blue cities have made it a mission to eliminate the advanced programs at which Asian kids excel. Asian parents said, okay, I wish all kids well, not a racist, but I need someone who acts like my lawyer.
And by the way, this does not only harm Asian kids, it harms every kid. Excellence encourages excellence. When you remove the high performers, you destroy motivation. For everyone, why should the average student work harder? If there is no benchmark to aim for, why should they push themselves? If the reward system has been flattened in the name of equity, it is a race to the bottom. And do not even start on the pandemic school closures parents pleaded to get their children back in classrooms. But Democrats kept siding with teachers' unions instead of families. And then they act surprised when parents begin voting Republican. Like, what did they think would happen if your child comes home less educated than when they left? Are you really going to keep supporting the people who caused it?
If you're a parent and wanted schools to reopen a lot sooner than they did after COVID shutdowns, or think maybe your kid is getting a bad education, partly because it's nearly impossible to fire a lousy teacher, yeah, you're going to say, congratulations, teachers, you got yourself a good lawyer. The Democratic Party's always got your back, 100%. But I've noticed my kid is kind of an idiot. So I may be looking for new representation.
This is the pattern. Democrats keep catering to small niche groups at the cost of the majority. Take student loan forgiveness. On the surface, it sounds caring. Erase the debt, free up young people to follow their dreams, yada, yada, yada. But look closer. And it is basically an insult to working class voters who never attended college at all. Picture yourself as a mechanic, a waitress, or a delivery driver. You never had college debt. Maybe you even skipped college to avoid it. And now Biden is saying your tax dollars will cover someone who piled up $100,000 for a degree in gender studies. How is that fair? You worked, you sacrificed. And now you are covering costs for people who often end up earning more than you anyway. That is not justice. That is buying votes, and voters are beginning to see it.
President Biden wants to cancel hundreds of billions of dollars in student debt. Okay, but the poorer 2/3 of American kids who don't get a college degree are going to say, why should the people who didn't go to college and make less money subsidize the people who did go and make more? You want me to chip in so some liberal arts college can build a bigger rock wall? You're not my lawyer.
The same thing applies to these universal basic income trials. Some cities are giving out free money to small groups of residents, sometimes even limiting it to LGBTQ plus participants. And again, I have nothing against supporting people in need, but when you single out one identity group for benefits, you are basically telling everyone else, sorry, you do not count. As much Democrats have turned pandering to the LGBTQ plus community into their political love language. Every speech, every policy, every stage gesture feels aimed directly at that one group. And in doing so, they push away everyone else, straight men and women, other racial groups, families barely getting by. They all start to feel ignored, and ignored voters do not stay loyal. They walk away.
Universal basic income probably sounds pretty good to a lot of people struggling without a college degree. And a number of cities have been running pilot programs in guaranteed income. But the West Hollywood program had to be suspended because it was unconstitutional. They set up a program where 25 residents were to get $1,000 for 18 months, but only if you identified as LGBT, the rest of that. Why? Because they need money more than any other people? Because no one in West Hollywood will hire a gay person?
And here's where it becomes really ironic on a subject like marijuana legalization, something Democrats should have claimed years ago. It now looks like Republicans might actually beat them to it. Bill Maher, who is basically the Pope of Pot, pointed out that Trump could be the one to push for nationwide legalization picture that the same party liberals mocked as outdated and uptight could deliver the very thing progressives have been promising forever. If Republicans truly follow through, it will be hilarious. Imagine Maher sitting there lighting up a joint and having to admit, okay, fine, the GOP got it done. That would be a complete identity crisis for him.
When he ran in 2020, Bernie Sanders said he would legalize marijuana on his first day as president, but that the business of selling pot would be awarded first to those who suffered most from the drug war. And you know what? I can't argue with that instinct. The drug war has been a horrendous instrument of prejudice and punishment for racial minorities. So it seems fair that they jumped the line for weed franchises the way Indians did for casinos. But it's also what's holding up Republican support for legalizing weed nationally, which would be good for everybody. And these are the hard, practical choices the Democrats have to weigh.
But that is the larger point here. Democrats talk a big game. They love slogans, hashtags, and moral posturing. But when it comes to delivering, they keep stumbling. Meanwhile, Republicans, whether you like them or not, are jumping on the chances. They are presenting themselves as the lawyers for the everyday American, and voters are reacting. In the end, people do not want pandering. They do not want empty phrases. They do not want lectures about pronouns or equity. They want someone who will defend them, protect their children's education, make their communities safer, and stop wasting their hard-earned money. That is it. That is the job Democrats have lost sight of, that they have traded substance for style, and style does not win elections when people's lives are at stake.
Address the past or reach out to the gettable white voter who says, you know what, I'd like a shot at getting in the pot business. But to do that, our entire audience.
So yeah, Bill Maher is not exactly a conservative champion, but he is speaking the truth. The Democrats are digging their own grave with these woke policies, from Latinx to education to debt forgiveness to identity pandering. They are showing voters exactly where their priorities are, and it is not with the people keeping this country moving. And if they do not change direction soon, they will keep losing Latino voters, Asian voters, working class voters. They are all drifting away. And when election day comes, slogans will not rescue them, action will. And right now, Republicans are the ones taking it. So let me ask you, do you think Democrats can recover, or are they too deep in the woke swamp to get out? Share your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you are tired of the pandering. And remember to subscribe for more videos like this, because trust me, we have only touched the surface.